Hello, I'm Theresa LaRocca-Meyer, Vice President for Enrollment Management at St. Joseph's College.
And I'm Gigi Lamens, Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management at St. Joseph's College. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Transforming Communities.
St. Joseph's College has been transforming lives since 1916. Not only the lives of our students, but the lives of those who reside within our local and global communities too. On today's show, we'll chat about a book called The New College Guide, How to Get In, Get Out, and Get a Job. 100 Questions to Ask About College. And joining us in studio is the author of the book and international educational consultant, Marguerite Dennis. Thank you, Marguerite, for joining us.
You're welcome.
First of all, Marguerite, I'd like to congratulate you on this wonderful book. Certainly, this should be the go-to book for anyone who is entering the college search and selection process, and it's going to be good for both families and for students as well. And also, I think it would be a wonderful resource in any college advising office in the high schools. The college admissions process can seem complex, especially when you're first entering it. When should you start preparing for a college search process?
Ideally, Gigi, the process should begin as early as middle school, and it should be a family affair, not just a student looking for a college or trying to get away from the furthest place that they can from where they live with their parents, but it should be a decision that people make as a family, and it should begin as early as middle school. Now, for those viewers that are viewing this show and saying, but I'm well into high school, you need about a year to go through the questions and getting the answers that I recommend in this book. There are 4 basic, simple premises, and that is this. There is a college or a university for anyone and everyone who wants to go. I firmly believe that. There is a school that families can afford. You can graduate and should graduate in 4 years with manageable debt, and you should position yourself to get a good job after graduation. There are many, many books on college admission, college financial aid, etc. This book is different because it takes the process from before you even apply to after you graduate and become a graduate, an alumnus of the school or an alumna of the school. And that's what makes this book different. It's also simple. It's 150 pages. I ask the readers and I journey with them in this book. This is part of me, and so I'm part of everybody reading this book. I took what is, as you suggested, a complicated process and tried to simplify it.
So what factors should be considered when somebody's looking for a college to apply to? And can you tell me how many applications is too many applications?
Well, I'm going to answer your second question first by giving you an example from my own family. I have 2 daughters. First daughter applied to 5 schools. She visited 5 schools, and she was accepted to all of them, went to her first choice school. Our second daughter visited 20 schools, applied to 15, did not get into her first choice school, got into her second choice school, but like 1 out of every 3 college students, she then transferred after she enrolled. So again, to me, there is something terribly wrong with the way we are looking at college admission. 1 out of every 3 college students will not graduate from the school that they enter, and 50% never graduate. Now, there's something wrong. So what I did was to take all the music in my head over all the years that I've been doing this work and drill it down to make it as simple as possible. But this is different too, Gigi, in this sense. There are 42 questions that I ask families to ask and get the answers to before they ever turn in an application. Let me give you a good example of this. I was listening to a radio program last week in Florida, and one of the person that was speaking had just been accepted to all of her best choices that she wanted, all of the schools that she was accepted to, she wanted to attend. And then her family sat down and decided, how can we afford it? The new college guide has you doing that all before.
So what factors should you consider when
I mean, the very first thing is a family. Do you want to be close to family? Do you want to be as far away as you can? There are some students that want to go to a different coast. Do you want to be 1 out of 25 in a tutorial site type classroom setting, or is it okay for you to be 1 out of 300 in a large class setting? Do you want to live at home? And do you want to commute? One of the myths that I hope I dispel in this book is that 2/3 of all college students are not residential students. It's a very small population that actually lives on campus. And commuting to school, as well as working while you're in school, is one way to reduce college costs.
We talked a little bit about when you start the process, and most students will be applying during their senior year, and admissions decisions are typically made prior to the completion of the senior year. So really, how important is the senior year?
We all know about students and senioritis, right, Gigi?
Yep.
I have had, over the course of my career, had to have students attend summer school because the information that they gave on their application when they applied and indicated the courses they were going to complete, they did not complete, and we were not allowed to admit them without it. So senioritis is real and should be avoided at all costs.
So you mentioned cost before, Marguerite. How important is cost when you're deciding where to apply, at the early stage, and how can a family determine if they can afford a particular institution?
Cost should never be, and I know I'm going to go against everything that people read and perhaps what people feel, but initially when you are determining where you are going to apply, cost should not be the number one factor. There are 42 things I ask you to do before you get to the issue of cost. 42 questions that I think are so important to give you a more holistic interpretation of what that school can do for you. For example, does the school have a career counseling program that begins in your freshman year, not in your senior year? Does the school offer the same financial aid package that you get in your freshman year in your sophomore year? There are some schools that give out great packages in the first year. Second year, the packages look a little bit different. But you would need to journey with me through those 42 questions before we got to the point of answering the question that you just posed. At the end of this first part of the book, the pre-application part of the book, you will know if you can afford to attend that school before you apply, because you will have done the work up front and not after. No one should get accepted to a college or a university and then decide if they can afford it. It should happen before.
And how often should a student, or should they, contact the financial aid office at the school they're looking at?
I'm going to make a lot of admission directors and a lot of financial aid officers very, very unhappy, because at the end of the book there is a chart. And for each of the 100 questions, I tell the reader who they should contact. But wouldn't you rather, as an admission officer or as a financial aid officer, wouldn't you rather know that the person that you are admitting or the person that you're giving an award to, you've got a really good chance of that person enrolling? We had, at the last school that I was employed, we had financial aid officers that did hundreds and hundreds of awards, and the kids never came. I would rather have 100 students in front of me that I know I have a really good chance of them coming, as opposed to 300 who are just taking up time.
Yes.
We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Transforming Communities right after this. Welcome back to Transforming Communities. I'm Theresa LaRocca-Meyer, Vice President for Enrollment Management at St. Joseph's College. And I'm here today with my colleague Gigi Lamens, Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management at St. Joseph's, and Marguerite Dennis, an international educational consultant and friend and author of the New College Guide book. Gigi, we can continue the discussion.
One of the things that parents are concerned about is safety on campus, and there's quite a heightened awareness about safety and security on campus. How important is this when deciding where to apply, enroll, and how do you find out?
Right, and we talk about that in the book. It is one of the questions, and I would not get that information, Gigi, from the admission office or from the enrollment management office. I would actually call the campus police office. And as you know, and probably many of your viewers know, we are all colleges and universities are required by federal law to publicize what their crime rates are. But it should be a consideration. In fact, that is one of the questions before you apply. So you hit on a topic that usually people, if they do ask it, it's after the fact. I move this up into that pre-application question phase.
I think also students and families sometimes struggle with the, should I live on campus? Should I commute? What are the benefits and disadvantages of both?
I was a commuter student. I worked also at St. John's University here in New York while I was in school. I learned very early on, Gigi, the value of managing my time well. It was a lesson that I took with me into my professional life after I graduated. These are life lessons, and I think if people are struggling with how am I going to pay for college, one way that you can do that is by commuting and not living in the residence. Now, does that give you the full experience? Some of your viewers may say, but Mom, Dad, I really, I want the climbing wall and the food court and all of that. Okay, it's a trade-off, all right? It's a trade-off. If that means $20,000 or $30,000 more in debt, then you have to trade that off, all right? So I think that people should take a look at the commuting population. Again, it's the majority of students that are enrolled in our colleges and universities. They are commuting. They are not living in residence halls. And I really recommend everyone have a part-time job or an unpaid internship, which can then be used for that first job after graduation. All of the research shows that students who work while they are in school have better retention rates. And remember, I use this word retention and not graduation, because a lot of parents may ask, well, and the federal government asks us, what are the graduation rates? Graduation rates tell you something. What I'm most interested in and what is in the book is, what is the progression rate from first year to second year? Because that will tell you what emphasis and how much energy, because that's the hardest year. Making the lifestyle and the mental and social and psychological changes that you have to make moving from home to a different environment. That's the most important year. And I ask my readers to look at the rate from freshman year to sophomore year. Also, another little insider comment tip, if you will, don't ask for the average class size, because schools will give you the average class size for the 300 students that are in a freshman English class with the 5 that are in an advanced accounting course. You want to know the average class size for freshmen, the freshman classes. And you want to know who's teaching those courses, Gigi.
Absolutely.
Is it full-time faculty? Is it adjuncts? Is it part-time people? Is it graduate assistants? These are the things that you want to know. If it's the full-time faculty, then you know the school is making some choices about your students' success. So graduation is one thing. Student success, progression is another thing. The other critical thing, and maybe because I started working in the registrar's office at St. John's, but I am adamant about this, and it is laced throughout my book, is everyone needs to get an academic map. A map that tells you in the middle or the end of your freshman year what courses you need to take and the sequencing of those courses to graduate in 4 years. Because everybody who reads this book is going to graduate in 4 years, not 5 or 6. I think that is nonsense. And I think if you do some prep work up front and you get that information from your academic advisor and you get it signed off by the registrar, you can actually path your way through to graduating in 4 years. Go to school in the summer, whether you have to take a hybrid course, you take an online course, you take a MOOC, come in with IB credits or AP credits. Make sure that however you orchestrate your 120 plus credits that you need to graduate, that it fits into that 4-year curriculum.
Certainly cost is kind of interwoven through
Absolutely.
all of these things, and graduating in 4 years is certainly a cost factor as well. Now, students can do some things while they're in high school to help foster on-time graduation, and what would those things be?
Well, again, there are a lot of classes, a lot of high school students I think this year it is over 1 million students in high school throughout the country that are taking college courses and getting them transferred. I know of one school, the Ohio State University. They are allowing seniors who graduate and who are accepted into the Ohio State to take courses for credit in the summer for at no cost. Okay, you can take AP courses. What about MOOC courses? Find out the massive open online courses that are, I don't know if it's a trend or I don't know if it's a real educational disruptor that remains to be seen, but there are schools that will accept MOOC courses for credit. And so there is no reason. There is, and I guess even more than the financing, because I think the financing you can work out. There is no reason why students should take more than 4 years to graduate. And if you accept that at the beginning and you get the information, not at the end or the middle of your senior year. Senior audits used to be what we did. I'm talking now about a freshman academic map. Very different.
So working with your academic advisor from day one.
Absolutely.
And
also, the registrar.
Working with your academic advisor if you consider study abroad.
That, and I recommend that. I don't recommend a 2-week program or something just in the middle of a semester to squeeze it in. I really think you will be a different person if you study and live abroad for 6 months. And I truly recommend that. But it is critical that all those credits that you take at your study abroad program are going to transfer in. And the other thing I think is critical, and I know this is, I'm not a social media person, but get a hard copy of your catalog. That's your Bible. Because courses and regulations change. And I know that we had, over the course of my career, we used the entry Bible, if you will, of a student to get him or her to graduation.
So the advantages of studying abroad are?
Well, if you want to take it at a kind of a lower level, the ROI, the return on the investment is probably your first employer is going to be looking at some sort of international experience. How did you adapt? Were you in a culture where you had to use, where English was the second language? You're going to need some international experience, I think. Whether you work for a global company as an intern, if you can do that, even an unpaid intern, you should have some international experience, but as a person. I mean, we talk about ROI, and I talk about ROI throughout the book, the return on this educational investment. You can't put a price on what happens to you as a person as you study philosophy or you study theology or you learn about world politics. You can't put a price on what happens to you when you live in a different culture and a different environment. You're a different person after those 6 months.
Absolutely. We have to take a quick break. We'll return in just a minute with more tips from the new college guide.
Welcome back to Transforming Communities and today's discussion about this great book with author Marguerite Dennis. Gigi?
Marguerite, you had mentioned before that this is kind of a family selection and project and exercise. Communication with parents from the colleges. Why is this important?
Well, again, who is going to be making the decision? I mean, ultimately, as to where the son or daughter goes to school. Parents have to have some weigh in because they're taking on a financial responsibility. They're also, but this is a time, it'll never be the same, Gigi. Your child leaves home. They come back, if they go away and live away from home, they come back at Thanksgiving time or you go on campus for Parents' Weekend. Your child isn't the same, but neither are you. And I talk about the empty nest syndrome, and I talk about coming back, and maybe your room now is your mother's sewing room. I mean, it's a whole different, the dynamic of the family is totally different. One of the things that I caution, and again, as an admission person, I'm sure, I know St. Joseph's does this, there's a communication plan that I recommend, not only for students, but for parents from before the time a person applies, and then afterward. You don't drop the parent, because it's the whole, if you're graduating the whole family, you know what we say in marketing and in admissions, you know, a happy customer will tell 25 people about St. Joseph's. An unhappy person will tell as many not to come. So as much information as you can give, as much attention as you can give to parents before, during, and even after, as they approach and as they get into that alumni stage, it can only add to the whole experience, not just for the family, but also for the admission team, the dean of students team, the alumni person, the career counseling person, the retention person, the academic office staff. It should be a whole combination of things.
And you know, we want parents to be confident in us and have pride in the institution. So keeping them well informed and part of the picture is very important. I agree. Let's talk a little bit about an institution's career counseling. Why is the level and quality of a college's career office important, and when should a student begin working with their career counselor?
So to answer your first question, again, one of the questions I ask families to get the answers to before they apply is, what are the statistics at graduation? And what are the, for employment, and what are the statistics 6 months after that? Where are your students employed? Where are your graduates, I'm sorry. Where are your graduates employed? What are they doing after graduation? I don't know about you, but I know in my own career, the career counselor never had a seat at the enrollment management table. They were never part of the marketing plan.
Wow.
And I turned that around in my last institution, and we developed a 4-year career counseling program that began in the freshman year. We started raising awareness. We started connecting first-year students who thought they wanted to be accountants with alums who had agreed to allow them to shadow them for a day or two to see what is it like to really be an accountant. And so maybe they decided at the end of their freshman year that that was something that they didn't want to do. In my own career, 100 years ago, almost 100 years ago, you know, I was given a choice to become either a nurse or a teacher. And the last semester of my senior year was student teaching. And that was when I found out that I would never want to do this for my life. But it was too late. Yeah. And so my advice to parents, and it is laced throughout the new college guide, is to get some information firsthand. And there are wonderful programs that many colleges and universities have instituted over the last few years.
Right, I agree. I think partnering with parents is very important, and bringing them into the career picture as well. And speaking of careers and working, should a student consider working while in college, either on campus or off campus?
Absolutely. As we touched upon this before, it's a very good retention tool. Those students who work on campus, of course, can probably learn how to better navigate the system of the college or university. But if you have a job off campus, again, you learn how to better manage your time, and you are contributing to your living expenses. And maybe that is part of your financial plan with your parents, where they say, we are not going to borrow for your day-to-day living expenses. You are going to cover that yourself. I think that's okay to do to kids. I really do. It gives them a sense of ownership. And if they are going to buy a sweater or get a pizza, it's their money. They don't have to ask for the money. I also recommend paid or unpaid internships in the summer, or abroad, if the school can organize that for you, and I do know schools that do that.
Marguerite, if I can just interrupt, where can this book be purchased, and what is the website where folks can reach you?
The where it can be purchased is just Old Post Books, oldpostbooks.com.
Okay.
And you can follow me on Twitter at New College Guide, all one word.
Well, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Transforming Communities. I'm Theresa LaRocca-Meyer, Vice President for Enrollment Management at St. Joseph's College. And on behalf of my colleague Gigi Lamens and all of us at St. Joseph's College, I'd like to thank our guest today, Marguerite Dennis, for sharing this important information with our viewers. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Transforming Communities.
you.